Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where sales and marketing try to share a brain. One side's closing deals, while the other's still debating font sizes for the PowerPoint. I love marketers, but I also like to give them a hard time, just a little bit. But I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What if your CRM wasn't just a glorified contact database, but the secret weapon your sales team didn't even know they needed? Seriously, most CRMs are like that fancy gym equipment you bought during quarantine. You know it's supposed to make your life better, but somehow it's just collecting dust instead of delivering results. Anybody else like that? I used to have a treadmill that became a clothes rack for a number of years. But here's the thing, your CRM should be working for you and not against your team. If it feels more like a chore than a game changer, it's time to rethink the way you're using it. In this episode, we're diving in how to transform your CRM from a clunky piece of tech into a powerful ally for growth. We'll explore why aligning your CRM with your sales process is absolutely critical for success and how to ensure your team doesn't just tolerate it. They actually use it and enjoy it and get value out of it. Novel idea, right? You'll discover how to embrace tools like AI and automation without losing the human touch that makes great sales truly great. And I think we'll continue to for the long time, especially as we move more and deeper into AI. Plus, we'll reveal the secret sauce for getting your sales and marketing teams to work together like a well-oiled machine. No trust falls required. If you're ready to stop wrestling with your CRM and start using it to drive more revenue, stick around. This conversation could be the turning point that your business has been waiting for. Our founder on Tuesday was Nikita Bigdaroff, the resilient founder of Maildoso. Nikita cracked the code on outbound email marketing and email infrastructure mastery. He laid out the entire strategy step by step, something every single SaaS founder needs to know. And it's so good and detailed, I almost wanted to keep the episode a secret, but of course we didn't. So it's available there for you. And our expert guest last week was Casey Stanton, founder of CMO X. He broke down how to supercharge your marketing with a fractional CMO model. He revealed why understanding unaware consumers is the secret to growth, how to craft lead magnets your audience can't resist, and why AI is the future of lean, high impact marketing. If you're serious about scaling, don't miss that episode. And in fact, either one, if you missed either one of those, go back and give them a listen. Great stuff there. My guest today is John Golden, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Pipeliner CRM. He's a global recognized thought leader in sales and marketing and the best-selling author of Winning the Battle for Sales. With over 1,500 interviews under his belt for his Sales Pop podcast, John is a master of sales strategy and collaboration. Welcome someone who knows how to turn CRMs into relationship-building powerhouses. John Golden. Hey, John, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Yeah, listen, thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Today is all about sales and marketing. And, you're something you're very, very familiar with in CRM at
Mhm.
Pipeliner. Love to hear a little bit about your background and experience with CRMs and how you came over to Pipeliner.
Yeah, Jeff, no problem. My experience with CRM goes back to when I first came over from Ireland. I came over during the dot-com era, came to Silicon Valley, and the company I worked for, I remember we brought Siebel in at the time. Siebel had started up and were rivaling Oracle, trying to rival Oracle and all of that kind of stuff. So we did
Yeah.
a huge implementation of Siebel, hired KPMG consultants and all of that. And they spent about a year and a bit or whatever getting it all ready. And they rolled it out to the sales team. And the sales team were just like, what is this? What are you expecting me to do with this? It was so laborious, it had zero value for the salespeople, to
Yes.
be honest.
Yes.
I know the executives were all excited about all the information they were going to get, but the sales team were like, "This is horrible." And anyway, it never went. It and because of that, it never really got used. So there was a lot of investment down the drain. So that was my introduction to CRM. And then later on, as I moved through different companies, like I was at a startup myself on the East Coast, and I was sales and marketing. So I went and I started using Salesforce because it was the easiest and the most accessible one at the
Sure.
time. So I started using that. And then when I moved on to some of the companies I ran, Huthwaite and Omega Performance, the parent company had a huge installation of Salesforce. So we all had to use that, even though, my particular businesses, we didn't like it. It wasn't really helping us. We tried our best to customize it. It became a problem. And so my whole attitude to CRM, and I wrote this when I did my book, Winning the Battle for Sales, one of the chapters was about CRM, and how at the time, when you introduce CRM to salespeople, they were like, "Oh, great, that's fantastic." This is now, they were highly unenthusiastic, and
Right.
you got that typical feedback, which I don't blame them at the time. Is, well, do you want me to sell or do you want me to do data entry? And you be saying,
Right.
well, I kind of like both, but I understand. So anyway, cut a long story short, I always believed that CRM was so necessary for a company. Like, it should be the heartbeat, the centered heartbeat of a company, because revenue is the lifeblood of a company. But it needs to have a different approach. It needs to approach it from a salesperson perspective, not from a command and control, top down. And so I had moved on from those companies, and I'd set up my own management consultancy. And Nicholas Kimla, the founder of Pipeliner CRM, contacted me because he'd read my book and he read the chapter on CRM, and he said, "I want to show you a CRM. It's going to prove you wrong." And I said, "Absolutely, bring it on." And so he showed me Pipeliner, and even if it's even 10 years ago in its earlier versions, I was like, "Well, this is very visual. This is very easy to navigate." And then I said, "Aha, well, now let me customize it. Let me try and put a sales process in there and a methodology, because that's something that the other CRMs couldn't do." And
Right.
and I was able to do it, and I was like, "Okay." And so he then persuaded me to come on board and look after the strategy and the marketing and just helping to bring to market and all of that. And so that's where my experience with CRM, and it's been fantastic because I love working with a CRM and being able to evangelize a CRM that actually helps salespeople, that is built with them in mind. And if salespeople are happy and salespeople are getting value out of using the system, it's helping them sell, it's giving them great insights, then the management are getting all the data they need because they're actually getting the interaction with the system. So the key is
Right.
engagement and adoption, and that's something that we've excelled at, which is great.
That's fantastic. And you're completely correct. I mean, back in the old days, I mean, Siebel was really the only player in the game, maybe the first one
Yep.
that was really doing that, and it was definitely enterprise and slow and not really built for salespeople.
No, no.
And then Salesforce came along, and definitely an
Oh, a big,
improvement.
big, big
And then
improvement. No, I mean, I
yes,
have to give it give Salesforce their due at the time. I mean, they were revolutionary, and for many years they
yes,
were. Their issue now, quite frankly, Jeff, is that they're now very legacy looking, very old looking. They haven't really,
yes,
they've tried to put a fresh coat of paint here and there, but the issue they have is the underlying technology, and I mean, it's in their own scripting language. They're going to have to reprogram it. They're going to have to rebuild it at some
yeah,
stage because
rewrite,
the underlying technology is not going to be able to accommodate all the developments, AI, all of this.
yeah. You're right, and so, they kinda were the next big wave, and now there's, lots and lots. I mean, it seems like the CRM market is kinda saturated with companies,
Mhm.
and, yeah, how does Pipeliner uniquely address sales needs? And you talked a little bit about that, even the methodology, and then what lessons can other SaaS founders learn about standing out in really competitive industries? Because 'Cause you're doing it in an industry that is really
Oh,
saturated.
it's horrendously saturated, and part of that reason too, Jeff, is the definition of CRM is has become rather nebulous, because sometimes you can
Right.
go to those, third party review sites and stuff, and you put in CRM and you get a big list, and then you go through, and then half of them you're thinking, that's not a CRM. It's something else, right? And so it's
Yep.
become, unfortunately, it's become a little nebulous. But where we have the real differentiation, I think, is to understand your audience, right? And understand, and I think, in as I said, traditional legacy CRM saw their audience as executives, as the management, as the sales management. Whereas, yes, that's our audience too. That's the people who buy and all of that. But our user audience are the salespeople, and that's why we always focused on making it as valuable to the salesperson as possible, and also understanding your target user, because salespeople are very visual, so therefore the system needs to be very visual, and that's one of the things that's one of our unique differentiators, is how visual the system is. It needs to be easy to use. We use a lot of drag and drop, and
Yeah.
just very simple. And where we actually really revolutionized things, Jeff, is that we actually made the back end, the administration part, just as visual and easy to use as the front end, with a lot of drag and drop. So traditionally, and I had this issue back when I was running companies and we had that big Salesforce implementation, was that I had to hire an administrator who was Salesforce certified and all of that. And
Right.
then I would say, I need a report for this. And he would go, yeah, yeah, no problem. I'll be back to you in a few days. I'm like, a few days? You really? And off he'd go and do his stuff. And so that's another key part of Pipeliner is, uh, you don't have to hire, and you don't even have to have a full-time administrator. It can be administered by people, by the sales leaders, by the sales managers, by sales operations, by people working in the business who understand sales. We've made it that simple to use. Therefore, not only are you saving money on hiring expensive certified admins, but you also have people administering the system who actually understand the business. Because oftentimes you hire your lovely admin with their certifications and all of that, but you have to explain the business to them, because they may know Salesforce or whatever CRM, but they don't understand the business. Therefore, if you have people who are working in the business administering the system, then obviously that's a huge advantage.
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah, it's much more advantageous to have somebody that really understands the function and what they're trying to
Yep.
accomplish, that can actually just go do what they need done instead of having to go ask somebody else because it's buried or complex,
Yep.
or somewhere else. And you bring up something really interesting. You're really building for the salespeople. And I think that's one of the things that some of the CRM companies really
Yep.
miss is, without that data, without the interaction, then there is no reporting. But then ultimately, that's who you're building for. That's your user, but your buyer is like the
Yep.
executives. And so they're the ones that want that data. And so you really have, your user base is different than who's making the purchase
Yep.
decision. How do you balance that?
And like I said, you balance it in the way of being able to, number one, show the buyer, the management, the executives, how easy the system is to use. First of all, how visual it is, how easy it is for them to extract reports from anywhere in the system, visual reports, run automatic reports, all different types, any format you want, from graphs to dashboards and all of that. And then you show them, obviously, from the salesperson's point of view, what they can do and how they can interact with the salesperson, and they very quickly get the idea. They see, okay, the admin and management sides of this are very easy to use, and this seems very engaging for the salesperson, so they very quickly understand. They put two and two together, and they realize, okay, if we have a system that is this intuitive and engaging for the salespeople, then I'm going to be able to get the data out of it the other end. And look at all the data I can get. I can run reports from anywhere. I can schedule them. I can automate them. And the other thing that we have done, Jeff, is we have an automation engine built into the platform. So when management see that, they absolutely love that, and also the salespeople
That's
do
good.
too, because I mean, within our own company, I don't know how many. I've lost track now. It used to be 450. It's probably more automated processes running in our own business today, and it has increased our efficiency dramatically. And I think when you show both management and the end users, say, look at all the things we can automate. You can get rid of all those routine and rote tasks, those low value things that you really don't want to spend time on. Automate all of those, and that allows you more time then as a salesperson to work on building your relationships with your customers, focusing
Right.
on your selling skills. And from a management point of view, then you get much more efficiency, consistency, transparency, and the automation really helps with that. Consistency, transparency, and the automation. We brought in a lot of AI components now. Again, we look at AI as a supporting as a supporting technology, right? So I want to make sure see transparency and the automation.
That's smart. And that's really important. I mean, the CRM, the relationship piece is critical
Mhm.
in that because it all buying is done. It's person to person. You're really building those relationships, and so maintaining that human element in technology. But we don't want to not use AI. There's some definitely places
Oh,
to do that. How do you segment those? Where do you use AI? Where do you use humans?
yeah, I mean, we're quite simply we look at what are some of the things that salespeople have to do that maybe they're not the best at, or maybe they don't like. I mean, writing emails, for instance, not every salesperson is fantastic at that, so let AI do that for you. We also do. I mean, we really see AI as so crucial to giving you focus. So we have things like you can look at the sentiment. I could look at all my interaction with you, for instance, and AI will go through all of those interactions and it will give me an idea of the sentiment. This was a very positive. This is a very positive exchange. Here are the things that are focused on, or this is a problematic. There seems to be some issues here that need to be addressed. So it's kind of it's we're using it to give these instant feedbacks to. So now you don't have to read through all and go through all your emails and look at those threads and like, oh,
Yeah.
where's that? No, that was a different thread. Hang on, let me go over there. Everything in one place, and it doesn't have to be just email. It can be text. It can be all of that. All of your engagement in one place, and AI will review it and let you know what's going on, summarize it for you, give you the sentiment. So those are massively useful tools because
Yes.
we're huge believers in focus, right? You only have so much time and energy, and focusing it is so key. So if you can quickly get these insights and you can say, okay, now I know I need to call Jeff because when I went through all of that, the sentiment was showing me that there's a few issues there. Here's the bullet points of what I need to address. I need to deal with you first. This other one over here, it's showing everything is looking good, it's positive. Maybe I can follow up with them, later today or tomorrow. But right now, my focus needs to be on Jeff. So things like that are hugely beneficial to salespeople.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. And then the summaries
Yeah,
alone just save so much time and focus and getting responses that are coherent and on
yeah.
point.
And being able to follow up with you,
So
and being
good.
able to follow up with you, and have a conversation with you, and you on the other side, you go, well, he remembered everything I talked about, seemed to understand. It puts you in a much better position rather than,
Yes.
yeah, remind me again, Jeff. A few months ago we talked about, and just remind me again what that was. And you're sitting
Right,
there
right,
going, huh? What, shouldn't you know?
right. Yeah, it definitely when somebody does that, it lowers their status
Absolutely.
in the sales process,
Hmm.
and I'm a lot less trusting whether, when they come in and say, "Hey, this is what we talked about. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's the plan." And even it's been a while. You said, "Call me back in 3 months. Here I am."
Yeah, yeah,
That's huge.
absolutely.
Just them actually doing that when they say, "Hey, yeah, I'll call you back in 3 months," and then they do it.
Hmm.
That's a big deal. And we're right back to where we were before
Hmm.
and not having what was it that you wanted?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, Jeff, you just talk about the salesperson and how we view the salesperson, because I think this is different also than other CRM companies, is that we see the salesperson as the entrepreneur in an organization. Because think about it, they're the only ones who have variable comp, largely, like a lot of their compensation is variable, maybe commission. Some people are full commission. They're all of their So therefore they have to be more creative, and they want to be in a position where they can maximize their earnings. So they want to have that kind of creative or entrepreneurial element, within the structure of an
Yeah,
organization. So we call them salespreneurs. But that's
I
why,
like it.
again, is we need to we that's why with Pipeliner, we really work hard to make sure that we give them all the tools and the insights to allow them then to have space to be creative, to build those relationships, to figure out innovative solutions, but really support them, almost as we said, almost as like as entrepreneurs within an organization.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times smaller SaaS companies, especially in competitive markets, they don't have the resources and the ridiculous marketing budgets of large competitors. What are some marketing and growth strategies that you recommend for, companies, say in the, 2 to $20 million range, to really help them punch above their weight and, break through the noise in the market?
Yeah, I think the key is, it's something that we did ourselves, is you have to be very, very detailed on who your ideal customer profile is, right? And don't start off with this thing, everybody's potentially your customer, because no, they're not. Okay, sorry.
Right.
So really, really focus in on who your ideal customer profile is, and then be relentless on focusing all of your messaging, your marketing, all of that around that, and going after that. And sometimes that means maybe going a little narrower than you would like to, but that's okay. That's better sometimes. For instance, ourselves, as we you mentioned the saturated CRM market, and a lot of the saturation is at the lower end of the market, where I would say, for
Yes.
systems for a couple of users, for small companies, for individuals, there's tons and tons of that. We made a
Right.
conscious decision to move out of that segment and say, that segment belongs to other companies. We're not Our system is not designed for onesie twosies. It is designed for mid-market to larger organizations who have sales teams who understand process and all of that. So we deliberately said, okay, we're going to leave this market behind, and this is where we're going to focus. You focus on mid-market, and then we grow into larger organizations, and that's what we've done. And then we got very focused on who our ideal target customer was, our ideal customer profile. And we aligned everything around that, all our messaging, how we work as a company, the type of people we go after, all of that aligned around that. So my advice would be to SaaS companies, or when you're starting up, is get very, very, very focused very fast. You can always migrate into other areas, you can expand, you whatever. But at the beginning, I
Right.
think if you're relentless in your focus, you can build a solid foundation. The problem is, and we've all fallen into this trap, is, especially when you start up your own business, you think,
Yep.
I just got to grab everything that comes at me, because
Right.
that's what I need. And that's understandable, and we all do it. But ultimately, that's going to undo you. So you have to sort of maybe give yourself a longer runway. And that's what I would say with startups. Sometimes, your horizon that you set for yourself, I have enough money to invest or whatever to get this far. I think you need to say, it's going to take longer than that. I need to plan for, maybe more capital or whatever, because that's just the experience that I've had. And certainly the experience when I've talked with lots of other people, is all of these things tend to take longer than you would like. So, and that's what
Yes.
undoes a lot of startups, unfortunately, is they run out of runway.
Right. And the way that you message, mid market is completely different than entry level startup onesie twosie. I mean, because you're talking to sales
Yep.
teams and sales leaders, things like that. It's completely different problems that they're solving than somebody that's getting their very first CRM at two people, ready to dominate your market and skyrocket your revenue. Dive into small fish, big pond, delivering a world class business that swims circles around competitors. This book is packed with powerful marketing and leadership insights guaranteed to transform your business and operate world class. Small Fish Big Pond delivers proven strategies to sharpen your marketing message, deliver unmatched value to your clients, and guide your prospects' buying journey to one inevitable conclusion: that your company is the only solution for them. Inside, you'll find step by step frameworks and time tested growth principles to attract your ideal clients, convert them, and then turn them into your passionate brand ambassadors. Grab your copy today in print, ebook, or audio at smallfishbigpond.com or on Amazon. Plus, remember, every book sale supports charity. All profits go there. Always have, always will. So dive in and make a difference.
Yeah, no, it's very, very different. I mean, your first CRM with two people, you're really running like a contact management system, probably at a fairly rudimentary level. For mid-market, larger and enterprise organizations, yeah, it's a very different conversation because now you're talking about process. You're talking about productivity,
Yep.
efficiency. You're talking about embedding sales methodology. You're talking to the management about what KPIs, what is important to them. So make sure that they're getting the right reporting and insights that they're looking for. So yeah, it's a very different approach. It's a much more process oriented approach because part of it, I mean, we would say that Pipeliner CRM at the end of the day, it's a process engine. That's really what it is. Essentially is a process engine. And the more you processize everything, the more and that allows you to automate, etc. as well. But it allows for that consistency and transparency because one of the big issues, as you know, you can deploy a CRM and you can put you can create your sales process and say I have 6-step sales process, 6 stages.
Right.
Here's but if you haven't defined it really well, it's like you and I could have a same pretty similar opportunity, but I decide, oh, I'm going to put it in stage 3, and you have your one in stage 2, but they're
Right.
very similar. One of us is wrong, right? One of us has it in the wrong stage, or the
Right.
process hasn't been defined properly and it's allowed for that ambiguity. So I think that's really important as well, is that you get your sales process right, you get it rigorous, you get it very well defined, because otherwise you're going to, forecasting everything is going to become difficult if you have inconsistency.
Yes. I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of leaders don't trust the data from their CRM
Hmm.
is because that things aren't defined well, and it's just, yeah, they look at the data and then they make their best
Yeah.
guess because they don't really know.
Mm.
But having that where it is well defined, and what stage 3 means, then that's a much better place to be, and you can really do some much more accurate forecasting that way.
Yeah, and some of the who is it? I mean, I know it's ZS Associates did some research on it, and also I think maybe KPMG. I can't remember, but the outcome of the research was that sale organizations that have a well-defined sales process, often mandatory, but with each of those stages, steps within those stages well defined. So not just here's stage 1, discovery, whatever, but below that is, here are the things that you need to do in order to complete the discovery stage. And we have that now in we've built that into our system where you can define the stages, and then you can put steps, and you can make them mandatory or not. It's up to you. You can make them where you can't actually move to the next stage until you have fulfilled all of the requirements in that stage. So that's an organization can choose to make it mandatory or not. But
That's nice.
but the research has shown that when you have a well-defined sales process with well-defined steps within each stage of that sales process, rigorously enforced by the organization, those are the top performing sales teams.
We've talked about changes in the SaaS landscape over the years. What are some major trends that you see coming up that SaaS founders should be preparing for in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones, Jeff, is that you can, let's face it, you can operate with less people. You can,
Yeah,
with AI, with automation and stuff. So, in many ways, it allows you to. I think one of the advantages this is going to have is it means that you're going to focus more on assembling a smaller amount but of very high quality people, and leveraging outsourcing, leveraging AI, leveraging automation to take care of a lot of the other parts of the business. So I think we're going to see businesses that are able to scale not with people, but with technology, right? And in the past, businesses have tended to scale by people, and that's when you get bloated organizations, you get middle management layers, and all of that, and you get bureaucracy. I think things are going to be a lot more nimble because of what the technology will allow you to do. Therefore, I think early on you need to figure out how you want to construct your business. What are the profiles of people that you really need to help you, and what are the people that, as like I said, you can use contract, you can use Upwork, you can hire somebody on the other side of the world cost effectively who's highly educated and highly skilled. You can use, as we said, you can use AI tools, you can use automation and stuff to make. So I think it's going to be the ones who are going to win are the ones who really crack the productivity and efficiency. And because I think there's going to be no room, as I said, for the bloated organization. There's going to be no room for the company that just tries to throw people at the
Yes.
issue. I don't think that's going to work anymore. So I would say you be very selective in the profile of people you need to have in the business, and then leverage all these other opportunities to take care of the rest.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know that throwing people at problems ever worked,
No,
but
I
companies seem to
don't
do
think
it a
it did, but
lot.
it's really, if you look at organizations that, because here's one of the issues, Jeff, and this is something that I think is easy to solve nowadays. But let's face it, oftentimes a company goes, "Oh, who's doing this? We need somebody to do this," and they go, "Oh, well, let's hire somebody,"
Right.
and then they hire somebody, and then it turns out that that's really kind of a quarter of a job. So then they
Right.
go, "Oh, okay, I got to find more stuff for Jeff to do. Here, Jeff, do this and do that." So now I've hired you to do one thing, but now I've given you a load of other things to do because what I hired you for is not fulfilling, the all of your time. And so how are you now? You're like, "Great, I was hired to do this, and now I'm doing this other stuff that I don't really want to do." So you're probably not doing the greatest job on those other things. Right? So number one,
Right.
I've hired you for a quarter of a job, and then I've given you other stuff you're not doing very well. You're not happy. We're probably not happy. Whereas if I had gone and looked at it properly and said, okay, this is something that needs to be taken care of, but we don't need a full time employee for it. So let's go out and find a contractor or somebody. 5 hours a week is all we need from this person, and away you go. And I
Sure.
think just being smarter about it is critical.
Yeah. So good. Well, another trend that we've seen over the last few years, product-led growth is really
Mm.
taken off and gaining a lot of traction, even mid-market and starting to see it some in enterprise. What role do you think sales and marketing play alongside product-led growth and product efforts within a SaaS company?
I mean, I think if your sales and marketing and certainly are not informing it, if there's not a really good feedback loop, then I mean, because at the end of the day, we talk about like product driven companies or sales and marketing driven companies and stuff, and the reality at the end of the day is you should be kind of both,
Sure.
because as you develop your product, the reality is it doesn't matter how you create your product to do. Customers are going to do things with it that you never anticipated, right? And they're
100%.
yeah, and that's the beauty of it too. That's kind of what makes it exciting. So they're a treasure trove for you. I mean, a lot of it, to be honest, we do releases almost on a monthly basis because we're always like improving and updating the system. And the majority of the things that we bring into the system are things that customers have requested, or that we've been working with the customer and then we've discovered, oh, we can do this together, and this is something that has utility for everybody else. So
Right.
so I think yeah, growth by product is fine as long as you have that communication loop through sales and marketing and the customer and the end users, and you're really understanding how they're using the product, how they may want to use it, but what are additional things that they could use. So that feedback loop is incredibly important, because you don't want to get into the area where you're creating a product that you think people are going to want to use. You really need to get that
Yeah.
kind of proof of concept.
Yeah. It's really smart. A common problem that I see a lot in really companies across the board, but certainly SaaS companies as well, is a misalignment between sales and marketing teams. What are some practical ways to improve collaboration and alignment between those two groups?
Yeah, it is incredible, Jeff. I have to say, we're heading into 2025, and we're still talking about sales and marketing alignment. I mean, and it's funny, and you could go back to videos of mine from 3, 5, 10 years ago, and I say the exact same thing. I go, "Oh, it's 2018, and we're still talking about sales and marketing alignment."
Yeah,
But yeah, it's an issue that
and it's
hasn't.
still a problem.
It's still a problem, and it's really a problem, as most problems are. It's a problem born out of misunderstanding or not understanding the role, or having empathy and really understanding the role of the other person, right? So for instance, marketing look at sales. Well, those are the salespeople. They're always complaining. You can never do enough for them. You can never do blah blah blah, and the salespeople are there going, "Oh, marketing off there, drawing pretty pictures that have no relevance to me," and unfortunately, that's kind of the attitude that a lot of people come in with, or have historically
Yeah,
had in organizations. And both sides have a lot of can share the blame in many ways. So I think the first thing is to do, and this is what I've always had in the organizations I've run in today, is your marketing, some of your marketing people, like your marketing lead and some of your marketing people, they should be on sales calls, right? They should be, when the sales team is having their sales meetings, they should be invited to them. They should be on them. And in a listening, they should be listening and gathering information, and then having an opportunity to ask and talk to the salespeople directly and ask them about, what do they need and all of that. But I think that's the first thing, is because when you have a vice versa, doesn't work that well, because if you put a salesperson on a marketing meeting, with an internal marketing group, they're just like, I don't know what these people are talking about. But if you have the marketing people go on the sales call, the salespeople immediately go, okay, well, they're actually willing to learn and listen and understand our world. That in itself breaks down a massive amount of barriers. And then,
yeah,
second off, if marketing go off and take some feedback and listen, and bring back something, a quick win, say, here, we listened to you, here's what we've done. Again, now you've built some trust. Now the marketing people can say, here's what I need from you, sales team.
yep,
And then you build that communication loop. But I think it all starts with, if and I would put this burden on marketing, just because somebody has to start, right? And I think that the value of a marketing person saying, I want to come on your call, I'm just going to listen, I just want to learn more about, I want to get an insight, I want to understand your world, I want to understand what's going on, I want to gather information, and that will go a long, long way to building trust, because most sales teams are not used to marketing wanting to play that role of like, oh, just we really want to learn and understand. And I think that really breaks down barriers. So it is really as simple as communication and understanding one another. And once both sides understand each other and they can work together, you can achieve fantastic things.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so good. And I love that. I mean, somebody has to start. I like that marketing sitting in on sales and really just building that relationship and understanding what's going on in the field.
Mhm.
Is that's a lot of it is understanding what are customers saying, what are prospects saying that we can incorporate into marketing.
Yeah,
And then so marketing becomes a lot more relevant, and you just kind of close that loop
yeah.
with the salespeople. And so then marketing is producing things that they're using, and they're feeding back marketing, telling them what's working, what's not working, what they're hearing in the marketplace.
And as we mentioned earlier, and also it behoves marketing people to understand that the salespeople are in a different circumstance to them, right? If you're in marketing, you're getting your salary, maybe you're getting your bonuses or whatever, and it's all pretty predictable. I think it behoves people in marketing to recognize the fact that it's not predictable for the salespeople. It's very unpredictable. They live as we said, in a much more unpredictable world. It can be quite, it's quite an emotional place to be. You're getting rejected all day long. You're nearly getting a signature, yeah, it's coming through, and then, no, sorry, CEO said no more spending this year, and suddenly your commission that you were banking on's out the window. You're not hitting your quote. There's
Yeah.
so much wrapped up in it that I think it really behoves marketing people to understand that the salespeople live in a different world, and they have a different level of pressure than possibly you do. And if you don't understand that, and if you don't approach that from a point of empathy, you're never going to build a relationship with sales.
That's really, really smart. Really good insight to think about that because they are in different places for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah. Well, one of the things I was thinking about earlier when you're talking about sales process and kind of structuring that, and I think a structured sales process is key to revenue growth. But the sales process, how do you make sure that that stays customer centric? Because a lot of times we're doing it for us and for our own tracking.
Hmm.
And how do we keep that customer centric while we're still scaling rapidly?
Yeah, yeah, and that's an excellent point. Yeah, I mean, the thing to do is to try and map it as best you can is to the buyer journey, right? So is to flip it over. I remember I went through this exercise one time, like many years ago, but we were putting our sales process. We were updating it and put it together, and we put this beautiful sales process together and laid it all out, and we were sitting, staring at it on the screen. You know, the executive team were, oh, this is great. And then after a while, we suddenly went, it's all about us though, isn't it? And we were like, yeah, it really is all about us. We said, well, let's try it again. Let's try it again and flip it from a customer, from a buyer point of view. And of course, it changed the thing. It changed it fundamentally. And I think that's where you got to start. You know, and yes, it's your sales process, but really you want to map it to the buying process of the customer. And then you want to make sure that at each stage of the process there is something valuable happening. It's not just a process, but there's something you're creating some value for the customer at every stage of the process. So even if they don't buy from you at the end, they've had a valuable experience that maybe they will share with somebody else. Maybe they'll come back to you later. So I think it's critical that you look at your typical buyer journey. You look at how your customers buy, and that's another part too. Is the other part about sales process is it should be dynamic because buyer behavior changes, and as we have seen over the last
It
number of
does.
years, changes all the time. And you need to reflect that, because you don't want to be trying to sell to somebody who wants to buy in a different way than the way you're selling to them. So it's critical that you also look at it as dynamic and you're constantly reviewing. And what we do in Pipeline, actually, we have a thing that's unique, no other CRM has. We have a thing called the archive, and that's where all of your lost opportunities, and that all the ones that don't progress, they're in a shadow pipeline, exactly where they were in the process when you lost it and stuff. So it's a kind of a shadow
Interesting.
sales pipeline, which means then you can go and you can look at what's happening in my sales process. You can look at it on a macro level. It looks like stage 3 is a problematic area because we're seeing a lot of losses in stage 3. Now you can go and address that, or you can go down to an
Right.
individual level and you can say, I'm looking at Jeff's fantastic in stages 1 to 3, but when it comes to negotiation and closing, things fall off a cliff a little bit here. So maybe what I need to do, and then I've discovered, oh, well, there's Mary over here. She struggles a little bit at the beginning of the process, but later on, she's fantastic at negotiating and closing. So maybe I need to have Jeff and Mary work together as a team, and then they both benefit. But
Yeah.
because of this, you can see those and you can analyze. And I think that's what a lot of companies miss is, it's one thing having your sales process, but it's another thing analyzing how it's performing at a macro level, at a
Yeah.
team level, at an individual level, and adjusting it accordingly. So like I said, it should always be a dynamic thing, and it's not something like, oh yeah, we did our sales process 2 years ago, it's great. You go, really? It hasn't? So your buyers haven't changed at all in the last 2 years?
Right. Right. What do you think the most critical sales enablement tools or strategies that SaaS companies should implement to empower their teams effectively?
Yeah, well, without being self-serving, obviously, I mean, I think CRM is critical, because CRM
Yes.
is the heartbeat of your organization, because revenue is the lifeblood of your organization.
Yep.
Every organization. I haven't met an organization yet that's able to maintain themselves without any revenue. So I think CRM is absolutely critical to the system. And I think, and here's the problem: is you can add a lot of other tools if you want, but I think until you're
Sure.
using your CRM effectively, you should really start, be cautious about adding too many tools. So maybe, maybe you want to add an early kind of lead gen tool, or something like, something like an outbound tool, or a gong, or something like that, or whatever. But I would only do that when you have your CRM properly set up and people are using it and understanding you got your processes built. Then you can add in other tools. But what we often see, unfortunately, is you get the shiny new toy syndrome, right? Where and
100%.
yeah, and another challenge is that nowadays I can go online, find an online SaaS tool, $5 a month. I'll just sign up for that myself. I'm not even going to talk to my bot. I'm just going to use it. And so now the problem is, in a lot of organizations, you have your core systems that everybody's supposed to use, but I have all these tools that people are using randomly, or using themselves,
Right.
and that can become very distracting. So I think you have to get a handle on your core technologies, and then, yeah, people can use other tools, but as long as they are focused on the core technologies first. And because you need that system of record, you need that one place that you can really trust. And then you need to make sure your CRM is able to integrate with the other systems, integrate with your marketing system, integrate with your customer service system, integrate with the ERP. Make sure that all of the data that you need is flowing through from these systems, and through your CRM, so you're getting the clearest possible. But I would, to be honest, Jeff, there is so much work most organizations need to do to get their core CRM to where it needs to be, that I think that's where you need to focus, and then just be very selective in maybe adding one or two other pieces of technology. But certainly don't do what a lot of right now, some people's sales tech stacks look like Frankenstein's monsters.
Such a good answer, because you're right. And it's really, really easy to
It
do.
is.
And it's those, yeah, every day there are 10 new shiny
Yeah.
objects.
It is.
And they all guarantee they're going to get us a million leads and sales, and
Yeah.
revenue is going to go crazy. We just need to spend
Yeah,
$25 a
yeah.
month.
And we want to
Yeah.
believe that. I mean, 'cause it's
Oh, of
hard.
course we do. I really want it to be true. It just isn't most of the time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's not always the fault of the technology.
No.
Just like you said, it's because it has to fit into the stack.
Yeah.
It's not just adding a point solution is not going to get you there.
Yeah, and I think that's where the biggest challenge is today, is that it's become very easy to create very kind of superficial point solutions, and
Yeah.
make them sound great, and they do some neat things, but so people just get overwhelmed, and then they start to, like, as you said, like, suddenly your tech stack is like a Frankenstein's monster. And I
Yeah.
think you just have to be disciplined and say, yeah, this sounds interesting right now, but if I'm not using these other things that I have properly, I mean, why am I adding another tool?
Because I
Yeah,
can.
because I can.
Because it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're exactly right.
I remember, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's right. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Pipeliner CRM online?
Yeah, so Pipeliner CRM, just type in Google Pipeliner CRM, or go to pipelinersales.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. We have a very active LinkedIn page for Pipeliner. Also, salespop.net is my podcast, and what we run through there. And we got YouTube channel, and we're on all the podcast platforms. So you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn, and find my ugly mug all over YouTube.
And you put out great YouTube content, and well, great LinkedIn content as well. You do have a lot of really, really good stuff on LinkedIn. If somebody's looking how to build their business on LinkedIn, look at Pipeliner, because it gets some really, really good stuff, absolutely on point. And everybody should listen to the Sales Pop podcast as
Yeah,
well.
thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're big believers in education, Jeff. We want to we don't want to just be a provider of a tool. We also want to help people be better at their job. That's why we do Sales Pop. That's why we're actually introducing next year. We'll actually be embedding through AI the ability to be able to access content from within the system. So if I'm maybe in the lead section, and I'm working on prospecting, and I go, I wonder, I need some prospecting tips, that I can just use AI to pull from Sales Pop and say, here's Jeff talking about prospecting.
That's good
Mhm.
stuff. Excellent. John, it's been a great conversation. Thank you for being on SaaS Fuel.
Yeah, listen, thanks for having me, Jeff. And, hopefully your audience got some value out of that.
Without a doubt. Thanks again, John, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about John and Pipeliner CRM at pipelinersales.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. It's at Champion Leadership. We've got full video episodes, training, shorts, reels, outtakes, lots more out there for you on YouTube. And thought leaders share. Share this episode with your friend who said, check out my new chatbot more than once. Anybody else have somebody like that in their life? Every week, like, hey, check out my new chatbot. Here's what it can do now. Well, everyone who shares this week gets a self-driving coffee mug with built-in GPS, so it always knows how to find your desk or maybe the nearest nap spot if you haven't had enough caffeine. But founders, do we ever have a caffeine deficiency? Hmm, maybe, but easily solved. What if AI could revolutionize how your team learns and grows, creating personalized training experiences at scale? Join us next time as Luis Garcia, president of Pete, shares how technology is reshaping workforce education and solving the toughest challenges in corporate training. Absolutely fantastic. How about scaling your business while reducing repetitive tasks and future-proofing your operations? Yes, AI to the rescue once again. Join us next Thursday as Michael Greenberg, founder and CEO of Third Brain Digital Operations, shares how automation and AI are transforming sales, marketing, and business growth. I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.